The day I was released from prison was New Year's Eve. My fiancé who promised to pick me up from prison was busy spending the New Year's Eve with his white moonlight. When I found my way home with my memory, he was hugging his white moonlight intimately amid the noise. Sister Wen Ning and brother Cheng are released from prison today. Why don't you go to pick them up in person? Wen Ning smiled softly with her red lips. Picking him up is not as important as staying up all night. He has been here for so many years. He won't die if he stays one more day. Aren't you afraid that brother Cheng will be angry? What is colder than the wind and snow outside is Wen Ning's extremely cold words. He did something wrong himself, so what right does he have to be angry? I still want him. This is the nth time. After he finished speaking, he raised his eyes to meet my gaze, and the smile on his face froze. The cold light from inside hit me, and my heart gradually became cold. He still wants me, but I don't want him anymore. The air was still at this moment. Wen Ning was the first to come back to his senses and walk towards me with lotus steps. Now I have a rigid crew cut and wear out-of-season old clothes. He seemed particularly abrupt in the joyful blood. He hesitated a little, but still threw himself into my arms. Why didn't you wait for me to pick you up? The gentle voice like water came into my ears, making me dazed for a moment. The scene just now fell into my eyes. No need, I remember the way. I lied. I waited for him for a long time at the prison gate in the snow, until the prison guard at the door couldn't stand it anymore and called a car for me. Through Wen Ning, my eyes fell on the man behind him. Lu Xing was wearing a custom-made dark gray suit, leaning lazily on the sofa, quite proud of himself. Meeting my gaze, he quickly suppressed the resentment in his eyes, smiled politely and said, "Xinghe, come out." This request just happened to coincide with the new year, so it was a double happiness. After he finished speaking, he stood up and put his arms around Wen Ning's slender waist, with a glaring provocation in his eyes. I reluctantly hooked my lips. Wen Ning held Lu Xing with one hand and pulled me to sit in the center of the crowd with the other hand. After Lu Xing exchanged glances with his good brother, the other party immediately understood. He stared at me with a playful expression. "This is brother Cheng. I haven't seen you for 3 years. How come you have become so old? When you were standing at the door just now, I thought you were a homeless person." A shrill laugh sounded, and Lu Xing covered his mouth and coughed twice. He reached out and patted him. "What are you talking about, brother? It's just a joke from my brother. Xinghe, don't mind it." The laughter overwhelmed the background music of the projector. With my mood floating, I clenched my fingertips until they turned white. Seeing that I didn't respond for a long time, Wen Ning pushed me impatiently. "We are all friends. It's just a joke. Don't spoil the fun." Wen Ning's words were like claws, constantly scratching my heart, causing dense pain. Others can joke, but Wen Ning can't. He should be the most understanding and the most unwavering person standing by my side, but now my pain has become a joke that he can make fun of at will. Worried that I can't suppress my emotions, I changed the subject. "Where is my mother?" Winnie's eyes flashed with guilt, but she immediately suppressed it. "Auntie likes quietness and is not here. I will accompany you to see her another day." I nodded, and then she saw that I was wearing thin clothes and turned back to the bedroom to get my coat for me. Because I didn't want to be alone with Lu Xing and others, I found a random reason to go to the bathroom. Just as I was about to wash my face, a voice came from behind 147. Completely out of instinct, I immediately turned around and stood at attention, saying haha. Lu Xing covered his mouth and laughed. The sound was disgusting and harsh. Water drops slid down my cheeks. I stared at him coldly. "Is it funny?" Lu Xing stopped laughing. His eyebrows and eyes were full of contempt and disdain. "It was very funny. I thought this New Year's Eve was boring." He pointed his finger at my shoulder and raised his eyebrows. "Until you, the clown, appeared. How come you are not used to being in prison? So you are so anxious to come out and seduce Ning?" The collar was ripped open by him roughly, and there were bruises of all sizes on the exposed skin. A coward who has been in prison is not even as good as a stray dog on the roadside. You dare to snatch Ning from me, even more shameless than your mother. When I heard him mention my mother, anger surged in my heart, and I grabbed his collar, staring at him fiercely. "Watch your mouth." As a matter of routine, Lu Xing was forced to look up at me, with a sneer on his lips. Laughter kept coming out of his mouth. After not seeing each other for a few years, why did his temper become more irritable? Did he not like the special care I asked someone to show you in prison? My heart skipped a beat, and my eyes fell on the ring on her chest inadvertently. I knew the ring. It was the wedding ring of Wen Ning and me. Seeing that I was staring at the ring, she looked even more proud. "Wen Ning is mine and Dad is mine too. If you continue to be ignorant of life and death, I don't mind sending you in again." Without waiting for him to finish, I raised my fist and punched him without hesitation. The fists collided with each other, making a muffled sound, and Lu Xing suddenly roared. Pulling off the ring on my chest and throwing it on the ground, Changxing's high heel sounded quickly, and Wen Ning suddenly appeared and scolded me sternly. "What are you crazy about?" He stood in front of Lu Xing, forcing my fist to stop, and then pushed me with all his strength. My back hit the hard sink, making me gasp. "I'm sorry, Ning, I forgot to take off the necklace and made Xinghe angry." Lu Xing leaned on Wen Ning's arms, his face full of grievances, which made Wen Ning feel distressed. I tried to explain myself, but was interrupted by Wen Ning's angry rebuke. "Don't pretend, not disgusting, I don't know what kind of person you are. Hurry up and apologize to Cheng, otherwise go back to where you came from." I was stunned. At this time, the pain in my body was not as great as the pain in my heart. "Forget it, Ning. We finally gathered together to celebrate the new year. Don't ruin their mood because of me." Wen Ning looked at me with disgust, his eyes full of anger. "If your character was half as good as Cheng, you wouldn't have been in jail. The person who once loved me like his life now holds a sharp knife in his hand and stabs it into my heart." He carefully helped Lu Xing up, and the ring was stepped on by him carelessly. Thousands of words gathered in my throat, but I couldn't say a word. "You reflect on yourself here, and when you figure it out, go and apologize to Cheng." When leaving, Lu Xing raised the corner of his mouth at me and said, "I'm in the shower." The door was shut heavily with a loud bang. A strong acid heat rushed to my eyes. There was noisy and exciting music outside. I humbly picked up the diamond ring on the ground. It was still shining under the light, but I felt that it was not as dazzling as before. With the cheers outside the door, I felt my head getting heavier and heavier, and my body was terribly hot. I leaned against the cold wall and fell into a dream. In the dream, Wen Ning hugged me reluctantly and said to me, "Believe me," and gently told me that he only loved me in this life. But the scene changed, and he leaned intimately in Lu Xing's arms, calling me. Number 147, I opened my eyes wide with fear and sat up in panic, a layer of cold sweat oozing from my forehead. The surrounding environment was familiar yet a little strange. It was my old room. There was a close-up photo of Wen Ning and I placed on the bedside. "Xinghe, you're awake," Wen Ning's voice came from the side. He sat on the edge of the bed, turning the apple in his hand skillfully until a whole piece of peel slipped from his hand, his eyes full of tenderness. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to not pick you up yesterday. I just didn't expect you to come out early." Listening to his lame excuses, I pursed my lips, unable to even fake a smile. "The ring." He moved the corners of his lips, smiling gently. "The ring was the one I lent to Cheng when I lost the game. I wore it. But that ring is outdated and doesn't match you. When we get married in a while, I will customize a better one for you. That ring was designed by me for us personally. How could it be outdated? Rings will never be outdated. What is outdated is his love for me." My heart was slightly touched. I hesitated to take the apple he handed me. Just when I thought I was too sensitive, the next second, Wen Ning's words were like ice water that chilled me to the bone. "Since you are okay, come with me to apologize to Xian." My heart skipped a beat. I thought I had heard it wrong and looked at him in disbelief. "What did you say?" Wen Ning repeated his words. I felt wronged. Although I tried my best to restrain myself, his voice was still trembling. "Why should I apologize to him? Do you know what he called me yesterday?" He rubbed his brows, looking like he had a headache, as if I was being unreasonable. "No matter what he called you, it's not a reason for you to hit him." I clenched the apple and retorted at the top of my lungs. "He called me 147. Aren't you number 147? I was stunned, and my heart also stopped at this moment. I looked at him desperately and unwillingly, my eyes full of sourness and heat. Seeing that my eyes were red, Wen Ning completely lost his patience and frowned. "Xinghe, don't pretend to be evil. It's not disgusting. Cheng didn't cry after being punched by you. What do you have to cry about?" Listening to his rebuke, the grievance turned into anger and completely swallowed me up. I was angry. He angrily smashed the apple in his hand at the glass of the group photo beside him, and the photo frame shattered into pieces instantly. Xinghe and Wen Ning stood up suddenly and stood in front of me. The last trace of tenderness in their eyes disappeared, and there was only deep disgust. "Do you know what the biggest difference between humans and animals is? That is, humans can control their temper but animals can't." I stood there in a daze, and I couldn't believe that the mouth that once expressed tenderness and affection to me would one day say the most hurtful words to me. My heart couldn't stop the piercing pain, and the air fell into deathly silence. Wen Ning was silent for a while and said coldly, "If you still want me to marry you, go and apologize to Cheng." After saying this, Wen Ning slammed the door and left. "He still wants to marry me, but I don't want to marry her anymore." With the loud bang of the door, my strength was drained, and I leaned my straight back against the headboard. Even without a mirror, I could imagine how embarrassed I am with red eyes. Dragging my tired body, I went to the bathroom to wash up simply. The exposed skin was covered with bruises from new wounds and old ones. How did I spend every day in prison for 3 years? Perhaps Lu Xing knew it best. When Tianshui Group was about to go public, company secrets suddenly flowed into the hands of the rival. As the company's legal advisor and Wen Ning's personal assistant, Lu Xing insisted that I was the one who leaked the information. Even my fiancé, I stood firmly on his side, but I had seen him go in and out of my office with my own eyes, but the surveillance video happened to be lost, so the blame fell firmly on me. Unwilling to give up, I took out my computer and tried to find clues related to the time, but to no avail. I fell into confusion again, walking aimlessly on the street, and unknowingly, I walked to the old house where I used to live with my mother. Because my father cheated on me, my mother's mental state has been unstable. I was afraid that he was worried about being imprisoned, so I lied that I was going abroad to study, but my mother was still greatly shocked. She didn't dare to see him out of guilt. She wandered at the door for a long time before I mustered up the courage to knock on the door, but after a long time, no one answered until the neighbor aunt opened the door and came out. Then I knew that my mother had passed away long ago, and the only thing he left me was an 84 light-year doll. I kept shaking my head to deny it and stood in the snow for a long time. I couldn't convince myself to accept this fact. With anger, I called Wen Ning, eager to ask him why he had kept this secret from me. But the phone was hung up again and again, until finally he sent a message saying he was busy and said, "You haven't figured it out. Don't call me before you apologize to Xing." Then Lu Xing updated a post on his moments. He and Wen Ning were kissing through the cards, their eyes full of happiness, with the caption in the new year, "Your lucky number is 147." Below the copy, the detailed address of the KTV is attached considerately. My heart is beating wildly, and my anger is like a beast swallowing me up. When I arrived at the box, Wen Ning was chatting with her bestie. "Sister Wen Ning, how did you know that Xinghe would definitely apologize to brother Cheng?" Wen Ning gently shook the red wine glass in her hand, and her words were full of confidence, "Because he wanted to marry me." Song Shui flattered half-jokingly, "If you marry him, what will brother Cheng do? He is the one who is anxious to marry me, but I didn't agree. I will definitely marry him." "Haha, I said that a man who has been in prison, how could he be worthy of her?" Sister Wen Ning was furious. I was about to push open the door when I suddenly heard Lu Xing's voice behind me. 147. Long time no see. Lu Xing crossed his arms and looked me up and down with contempt. "You are so afraid that you can't marry a woman that you come to apologize to me so actively." I stared at him expressionlessly. He should apologize. He raised his mouth proudly, and the bruise on his cheek was particularly conspicuous. I sneered and looked at him cruelly and said that you should apologize to me. Lu Xing didn't take it seriously but smiled more proudly. "I don't understand what you said. Why should I apologize to you? He has time to act stupid, but unfortunately I don't have time to play with him. The secrets of Tianshui were leaked by you who stole my account. Who is not important? Yes, the important thing is who Wen Ning believes in. What can Wen Ning prove by believing in you? Prove that you are a good actor." Hearing what I said, Lu Xing suddenly laughed out loud, his eyes full of contempt. I was too lazy to argue with him anymore. I turned around and prepared to push the door, but he suddenly grabbed my arm. When I was confused, he glanced around to make sure no one was approaching me. He lowered his voice. "Is it because I am a good actor? Or does Wen Ning prefer me? You know very well that I stole the data. Could it be that I deleted the surveillance? I don't have the permission." A thunder exploded in my mind and I was shocked. The work computer recorder can steal my password, but the surveillance the video has been stored in my personal computer, and only Wen Ning has the authority to monitor the company. I can record it. What I hate most is others coveting my things. If you don't know how to live or die again, I don't mind sending you in again. By the way, he suddenly seemed to remember something and looked at me with a playful face. "You don't know yet, your mother is dead. She died on New Year's Eve last year. It's a pity that Wen Ning was busy accompanying me, and had no time to take care of that dead old woman. You don't know how pitiful her death was. I feel distressed." After he finished speaking, he laughed as if he was telling the funniest joke in the world. Looking at his shameless expression, I couldn't stand it any longer and raised my fist. This time Lu Xing learned his lesson. He suddenly broke open the door and fell to the ground, shouting for help. Wen Ning immediately jumped up from the sofa, trotted forward, and pulled me off Lu Xing together with the waiter. "This is how you should apologize." Lu Xing shrank his body, frowned and hid behind Wen Ning. Aiming Xinghe was crazy. I greeted him kindly, but he suddenly had a seizure and rushed over to kill me. Wen Ning believed his words and stared at me with disgust. "If you don't want to apologize, get out. Don't go crazy here and embarrass yourself." He pushed me and made me stagger. He was so angry that he raised his palm. I twitched my lips and looked at him disappointedly. "My mother is gone, why didn't you tell me?" A guilty look flashed across Wen Ning's face, but it was only for a moment, and he immediately turned indifferent. "I told you that your mother can be resurrected." My heart was suddenly torn in two and I was heartbroken. After thinking it over again and again, he withdrew his palm and softened his tone. "You have time to worry about these things that cannot be changed all day long, so you might as well apologize to Cheng as soon as possible. I will still keep my promise and marry you, marry me." After I murmured in the stunned eyes of everyone, I punched Lu Xing in the face, who was hiding behind Wen Ning and laughing secretly. "Cheng Xinghe, what the hell is wrong with you? What a madman." Wen Ning was stunned for a moment and then immediately protected Lu Xing. He looked at me angrily with a fierce look, as if he wanted to cut me into pieces. I retracted my fist, took out the ring from my bag, and threw it hard on Wen Ning's face. "I agreed to marry me. Will I marry you, Cheng, huh? As Wen Ning roared, I dragged my numb body and turned away. If you dare to walk out of this door today, don't regret it, Sister Wen Ning. Don't be angry. Men are cheap, especially those who have been in jail. Leave him alone for 2 days, and I guarantee that he will come back to apologize to you. Wen Ning's roar and the discussions of the crowd gradually became blurred. I seemed not to hear them and walked away with a frivolous step. I was on the street. It was the first day of the new year and it was very busy, but my heart was desolate. Following the address given by my neighbor, I found my mother's grave. My mother lay quietly in the snow. The photo on the tombstone was as gentle as ever. I gently shook the snow off the white daisies for her. Warm tears fell on the back of my hand. I had imagined countless times the scene of reuniting with my mother after being released from prison. I even imagined that at my wedding with Wen Ning, she would look at me with a smile and welcome her own happiness. But now the fantasy was shattered, leaving only piercing fragments all over the ground. I knelt on the ground dejectedly and gradually cried. I burst into tears. I had done nothing wrong, but I had to suffer, while the people who hurt me lived happily. For the first time I felt a strong hatred in my heart. Along with the crunching sound of stepping on the snow, a familiar voice sounded behind me. It had been a long time since we last met. When I returned to the home where Wen Ning and I used to live, it was already late at night. Under the incandescent light, the couplets and the red blessing character on the door were particularly eye-catching. In a trance, the scene of me carefully hugging Wen Ning's waist and pasting window paper cuts with her flashed in my mind. I asked him puzzledly why he didn't let his aunt paste it. How could we let others interfere in our home? But at this time, there were already many things that did not belong to us at home. There was even a photo of him and Lu Xing hanging on the wall of the living room. I stared at the photo for a long time and finally smashed it to pieces, along with the furniture that Wen Ning and I had picked out together. After venting my anger, I packed up my things. Most of my things were put away by Wen Ning, but I didn't take them away. I only took away the computer I had used and some documents. When I picked up the photos on the floor of the bedroom, I accidentally found a few curly hairs on the bed where I slept last night. I suddenly felt nauseous, and then I realized I found that the photo album I had kept in the cabinet was missing. It contained not only the memories of Wen Ning and me, but also the memories of my mother and I from childhood to adulthood. In panic, I searched the room but found nothing. There was a sound of a handle being twisted at the door, and Wen Ning walked into the room angrily with a look of rage on his face. Cheng, have you had enough trouble? You have been making trouble since you got out of prison. What do you want to do? At this time, I also found the photo album in the abandoned cardboard box. On the album, my mother's and my faces were maliciously scratched and blackened, but Wen Ning's face was left intact and clean. I raised the photo album. I suppressed my anger and questioned him. Wen Ning frowned and explained to me, Xing, I was drunk some time ago and accidentally broke it when I slept in your room. I'll have someone make you a new one in 2 days. I didn't do it by accident. At this moment, I felt like all my strength was drained away. I didn't want to argue with him anymore, not at all. I didn't have the energy to argue anymore. I carefully put the photo album into the suitcase. When we passed each other, Wen Ning held my hand and said, Go ahead. There was a subtle uneasiness in his eyes. I didn't answer and wanted to break free, but he held me tighter. He pursed his lips and said unnaturally, As long as you apologize for what happened today, I can consider the original plan. I'll forgive you. A sneer escaped from my throat. I pulled my hand out with force and said lightly, If you don't need my white moonlight here, how can I come back to sleep with you? Wen Ning's face turned ugly. He sincerely said that if you are sick, go to the hospital. Xing is at least your brother. Don't slander him. Wen Ning's words were light, but they pressed me like a 1,000-pound rock, making me breathless. I clenched my fists and made them creak. My eyes were fixed in his eyes. A bastard is worthy of being my brother. Wen Ning was choked by me until I walked out of the bedroom and heard his angry rebuke from behind. Cheng, don't forget, you are a man with a criminal record. Without me, I thought you could still go. I didn't respond to him. I randomly found a hotel to stay in. My card was frozen by Wen Ning. I didn't have much cash on me. Because of my criminal record, I couldn't find a job. Some companies even waved their hands and refused just by hearing my name. I have been in the workplace for many years. How could I not know that this was Wen Ning's work? He wanted to force me to bow my head, but I have bowed my head for him enough times this year. He used to say that he loved me, but he always favored Lu Xing for no reason. He agreed to accompany me to celebrate my mother's birthday, but turned around and followed Lu Xing to attend the family dinner. He clearly knew my family was destroyed by Lu Xing and his mother, and my mother was driven crazy by them, but he still chose her again and again. Even the wedding that was finally scheduled was cancelled because of his casual words. Xing, I'm not feeling well. So this time I didn't choose to bow to him. We didn't contact each other, but his circle of friends was updated more and more frequently. Under the lights of luxury, he and Lu Xing hugged each other intimately, but his eyes always glanced at the camera unconsciously. Lu Xing would always use the same photos to provoke me. You loser are not worthy of competing with me. You haven't been able to marry Wen Ning in 10 years. And I only need one sentence to make her marry me. I just smiled at this until Wen Ning got drunk and asked me crying, why didn't I contact her? Why didn't I want to apologize to her? Xinghe, as long as you apologize, we can still be the same as before. You can still come to work in the company. No one dares to go to jail for you. I thought about it seriously since I was released from prison. Except Wen Ning and Lu Xing's group, no one mentioned that I was in jail. Yes, I almost forgot. There was another person on this end of the phone. I was hesitant to speak. Wen Ning completely lost his patience and threatened on the phone, Ming, it's my birthday today. If you don't come, I don't mind marrying Lu Xing. He said that without giving me a chance. He talked on the phone directly. Wen Ning once said that he would get married at the age of 30. I was very dissatisfied with his words at that time, but I don't want you to wait until you are 30. She smiled lightly with her thin lips, and the evening breeze blew, dyeing her cheeks with a layer of blush. With a snap of my fingers, an endless stream of fireworks bloomed in the night sky, with romantic music in my ears and endless white azaleas. I took out the ring that I treasured, knelt on one knee, my eyes full of pious and passionate love. Annie, will you marry me? Not in the future, nor at the age of 30, but now. He slowly stretched out his hand, his eyes full of love. I am willing that Wen Ning will only marry Chang Xinghe in this life. The hot oath is still ringing in my ears, but the rising girl is no longer there. I almost forgot that I am already 32 years old. In the huge private room, the atmosphere is solemn. Wen Ning sits on the sofa with a cold face, tapping his white fingers from time to time. Song Shui speaks to ease the atmosphere. Wen Ning, it's your birthday today, be happy. Everyone knows that Xinghe loves you the most. He knows that you will definitely come for your birthday today. Song Shui's right. I think Brother Cheng is playing hard to get with Sister Wen Ning. Now he is probably as anxious as an ant on the hot pot. Who says he is not? He is a labor camp prisoner, and only Sister Ning is generous and willing to take him in. Everyone flatters him, but Wen Ning suddenly gets furious and smashes the wine glass on the table to the side. The crowd immediately becomes silent. Is it over yet? Who told you that I'm waiting for him? The person I'm waiting for today. Lu Xing hears him say this, and several brave ones start to speak in a hurry. I tried to take over the conversation, and at this time Lu Xing, wearing a black suit and holding a red rose, walked into the private room accompanied by a waiter. The silent private room became lively again, but Wen Ning was stunned until Lu Xing knelt on one knee and called him softly, Ning, will you marry me? Wen Ning came back to his senses, stretched out his hand in a daze, but put it away at the last moment. Akin, I'm sorry, I have a ring on my hand, Ning. The moment I pushed open the door of the private room, Wen Ning's eyes were immediately locked on me, and his eyes gradually became clear. I was wearing the suit he had customized for me personally, and in my hand was his favorite azalea. What you promised to marry me, does it still count? While speaking, Wen Ning had already walked in front of me. Even though he tried his best to restrain himself, there was still surprise in his eyes. At this moment, Lu Xing stood in the dim light with a distorted expression, staring at me fiercely, his chest heaving with anger. Wen Ning looked at me affectionately and said, Of course it counts. I said that as long as you come back, I will marry you. I smiled faintly, but I didn't bring any ring. It's okay, I have it. He took out the ring that I threw away and put it on me personally. Lu Xing walked in front of me and tried to hold back his jealousy. Does your hand still hurt after you came? He deliberately brought up the previous things, but this time it was not me who interrupted him. Enough. Is it fun to keep bringing up the past? Wen Ning scolded him, and Lu Xing froze in place for a moment, but this time Wen Ning completely ignored his grievances. He always thought that he was Wen Ning's white moonlight, but only those who couldn't get it were white moonlight, and those who got it were disgusting clingy people. The wedding date with Wen Ning was set on the 15th. It seemed that he was more anxious than me. He stayed with me until the wedding day. Not only did he not go to the company, but even when Lu Xing pretended to have a depression attack and even made a fuss about self-harm, he just pretended not to know. Later, I don't know what happened. Lu Xing suddenly stopped, no longer quarreling or making a fuss, but from time to time, he sent me 2 photos of him and Wen Ning, intending to disgust me. During the 3 years you were in prison, Ning and I traveled all over the world. We also fell in love and made a wish. I smiled indifferently and replied, Really? Thank you, brother, for taking care of your sister-in-law for me. Lu Xing called me soon, but I hung up. Cheng Xing, what kind of man are you? Challenge me if you have the guts. Don't be like your mother, that old woman who plays tricks behind my back. I turned off the phone coldly and clenched my fists. On the wedding day, when I was backstage, Wen Ning came to see me many times because she was worried. Seeing that I was wearing casual clothes, she was a little suspicious. Why didn't you change into the suit I customized for you? I looked down at myself and smiled and said it was a little wrinkled. I had it ironed and changed it immediately. The suspicion in my eyes became even greater. He wanted to ask more questions, but had to leave at the urging of the bridesmaid. At the wedding scene, Wen Ning held the bouquet tightly. Because he was holding it too hard, his fingertips turned white. Until the groom came out, he found that it was not me who stepped into the wedding scene, but Lu Xing with the groom's boutonniere. The bouquet in his hand fell on the red carpet. Wen Ning pushed Lu Xing away and called my name anxiously. Lu Xing didn't understand and pulled her wrist. Ning, today is ours. Wedding you go. At this moment, the warm VCR behind me. which was originally watched by the guests, turned into a video of Lu Xing sneaking into my office and copying company secrets. There was also a harsh recording. When he and Lu's mother provoked my mother again and again, he personally admitted that he was the one who deliberately leaked the secrets to frame me. He even bribed the gangsters in the prison and asked them to take good care of me. Seeing the video, Lu Xian's face turned pale instantly, and his eyes were full of panic. The last video was the evidence that Lu Xing had taken advantage of his position in the company to privately sell Tianshui Group's documents over the years. Wen Ning was full of anger, looking at Lu Xing, who shook his head to deny it. At this time, the shutter sounds in the audience rang one after another. Wen Ning glared at Lu Xing fiercely, his eyes full of hatred. It was really you. Lu Xing held her hand and stammered to explain. Ning, listen to my explanation. Suddenly, Wen Ning caught my figure in the crowd. At that moment, he immediately pulled his hand out and wanted to run towards me in panic. But Lu Xing held Wen Ning. You can't leave. Today is our wedding. You promised to marry me. Wen Ning was impatient and shook off his hand. Get out of here. When did I say I would marry you? You're just a toy I picked up when I was bored. Are you worthy of marrying me? Hearing this, Lu Xian frantically searched for his phone. He glanced at me from the corner of his eye and was stunned. I think he should understand. It was me who had always sent him messages, not Wen Ning. I used Wen Ning's phone to tell him that the male lead in today's wedding could only be him, and Wen Ning had never thought of marrying me. Lu Xing believed it, but I didn't lie. On Wen Ning's birthday, I heard his conversation with Song Shui when I was lying on the sofa pretending to be drunk. Ning, haven't you always liked Lu Xing? Why did you suddenly decide to marry Xinghe? Wen Ning sneered. A labor camp inmate dared to get angry with me. I was just teasing him to dampen his spirit. I also wanted to see what a wedding would be like without a bride. After Wen Ning finished speaking, he gently put his hand next to me. A hot tear fell on the back of his hand. I was very obvious. I noticed his body tremble. He didn't want to marry me and I didn't want to marry her, but he changed his mind and I helped him choose a groom he liked again. It was a double happiness, at least for me. Behind Xinghe was Wen Ning's call. I didn't look back. Lu Xing refused to give in, but was grabbed by the police who came and pressed him to the ground in embarrassment. Xinghe and Wen Ning caught up with me. I was too anxious and his voice was trembling. Why? I chuckled and asked back, what why? He pulled my wrist, his eyes full of confusion. Today is our wedding, why did you ruin him? Because you don't want to marry me and I don't want to marry you. If you don't want to marry me, why didn't you say so earlier? Why do you treat me like this? Questions flooded me like a tide, but I felt inexplicable. It was obviously him who didn't want to marry me. I shook his hand away with force. I looked down at my casual clothes. I didn't say anything, but Wen Ning suddenly lost his mind, completely losing his indignation just now. The year we loved each other the most was also the first time he was because of Lu Xing. Our wedding was postponed. I didn't know about it at the time. He told me it was because of work, but actually he was accompanying Lu Xing to see the northern lights. Seeing that I was angry, he buried his head in my neck and acted like a spoiled child. Xinghe, it's my fault. I was too busy with work this year. We must have a wedding next year, okay? I softened my heart and forgave him. I said half jokingly and half seriously, if there is a next time, I will wear casual clothes and hide in the crowd at the wedding, so that you will never find me in your life. He smiled, put a limited edition watch that he bought at a high price on my hand, and kissed my mouth gently. There will never be that day on my lips. I was 23 that year and I am 32 this year. He postponed the wedding 4 times. Xinghe, I'm sorry, but this is the last time. I really want to marry you. Let's start over, okay? I shook my head a little funny. I have a girlfriend, how can you marry me? Wen Ning's expression froze, unbelievable. Suddenly he laughed out loud with a look of disdain. How could it be possible? Xinghe, you don't have to lie to me like this. 147, what are you doing hesitating about? A soft female voice came from behind me. I walked forward and took Su Wan's hand, and said to Wen Ning with a smile that I was her girlfriend. Su Wan nodded politely at him. Wen Ning's whole body froze, his expression hurt, like an eggplant hit by frost. He ignored him again. I took Su Wan's hand and left. If someone calls me number 147 and I don't get angry, then it might be only Su Wan. When I was bullied by the gangster leader in prison, Su Wan saw it through the iron bars between the men's and women's prisons. Later, he took advantage of the prison to organize an event and reported the person who led the bullying of me. Even though it would offend people, he didn't care. Not only did he considerately help me apply medicine, but he also encouraged me again and again not to be so timid. During my 3 dark years, he was the light that penetrated into my life. After he was released from prison, he not only often came to see me, but also helped me collect evidence about the leak of confidential information. That day in the cemetery, he found me and handed the collected evidence to me. He gave it to me and stayed with me, recovering the lost surveillance and data. To express my gratitude, I treated him to dinner. After parting with him, I saw a familiar figure in front of the old house left by my mother. Wen Ning stretched out his hand to touch me, but I stepped back to avoid him. I looked at him coldly. We are getting married today. Why are you not going to accompany your fiancé? I'm sorry I misunderstood you all these years. Please forgive me again and we can start over. Can you forgive him once? I have forgiven him a long time ago, more than once. Wen Ning, I already have a girlfriend. Please don't bother me again. Hearing this, he suddenly held my arm with an excited tone. I have investigated. That woman is not your boyfriend at all. He is just a criminal with a criminal record. As he spoke, tears welled up in his eyes. Moreover, when you held his arm, your palm fell empty, but when you held my arm, our fingers were interlocked, proving that you don't love him at all. Wen Ning guessed right, but these are no longer it's important. I shook off his hand with cold eyes, and then Su Wan is not my girlfriend, but she helped me again and again when I was most helpless, and you, my real girlfriend, fiancé, you are living a life of luxury, accompanying Lu Xing to travel around. Even when I was looking forward to seeing you when we first met, you were busy accompanying Lu Xing to celebrate the new year and had no time to pick me up. Su Wan is not rich and has a lot of food. If she likes me, I would be happy for her to be my girlfriend. Under my resounding questioning, Wen Ning lost his voice, stood there with dull eyes. Xinghe, I'm sorry, I thought it was you who leaked the results of my hard work, so I had a grudge against you. It's all my fault, but now the truth is out. We can start over. Let's start over, okay? Looking at the woman in front of me, I only felt a burst of sadness, and I no longer had the love I had before for her. Wen Ning, you and Lu Xing are really a perfect match. You both love acting so much. If you didn't know the truth, why what would help Lu Xing delete the surveillance? Wen Ning denied it and shook his head repeatedly. Bu Xinghe is not what you think. It was Lu Xing who said that he filled out a contract incorrectly, and he was afraid that you would take revenge on him after you found out. You know, he suffered from depression after his parents had a car accident. I was afraid that something would happen to him, so he decisively let me take the blame. Maybe from the beginning he knew very well that it was not me who did it, but he chose to default just because I am strong and have no depression. I laughed at myself in my heart, and I approached him with a terribly cold look in his eyes, perhaps realizing how hurtful my next words would be. He dodged and didn't dare to look at me. I asked you, do you know what the biggest difference between humans and animals is? He was at a loss. I emphasized word by word that humans can act, and often act more like animals than animals. After I entered the room, Wen Ning did not leave, but stood there stupidly like a puppet with a soul drawn out. His face was so pale that there was no trace of blood. I looked through the glass looking at him. It was as if I was back to New Year's Eve. I was standing in the cold snow in an awkward manner, but he was sitting in the warm room, examining me leisurely, looking at me with contempt and disdain. Ignoring his hurt look, I pulled the curtain shut and stopped looking at him. From then on, he would wait at my door every day, and I didn't know who he was waiting for. Maybe he was waiting for the white moonlight in his heart. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison for multiple crimes in the first instance. During this period, he kept asking to see Wen Ning, but Wen Ning thought it was unlucky to see him. After the wedding, Tianshui Group had a major change. The chairman, Wen Ning, was questioned about his ability and was sidelined by several major shareholders, but he didn't care at all. He got drunk during the day and stayed by my window at night. Song Shui couldn't stand it anymore, and embarrassedly spoke up to persuade me on his behalf. Xinghe, you see, Ning is willing to give up his life for you, so give him another chance. After all, you once loved him so much. How could you bear to see him suffer? I just smiled faintly at this. Of course I couldn't bear it before, but now I don't have any pity or love for him. How can I, a person who has been in prison, be worthy of him? But in fact, since the truth came out, I have cleared my criminal record. After handling the matter, I sold the old house and prepared to leave here. Lu Xing asked someone to send a message to see me, but I refused. He wanted to see me, but I didn't want to see him. Outside the window, there were snowmen of all sizes piled on the snow. They stood there in an orderly manner, as if waiting for a grand wedding. Wen Ning stretched out her frozen purple hands and drew a smiling face on a snowman, then smiled at me. During this time her face remained the same, but she was much more haggard. I pushed open the door and he immediately threw himself into my arms. The coolness instantly swept over my body. Xinghe, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Please forgive me again, okay? I pushed him away, stared into his moist eyes, and showed him the wedding ring. The last time I forgave you was when I got out of the bath. I picked up the ring from the floor in the room and said, if you pick it up today, I will forgive you. As soon as I finished speaking, I took advantage of his inattention and threw the ring out. The ring fell into the white snow and disappeared in an instant. It was undoubtedly like looking for a needle in a haystack, but Wen Ning didn't care. There was blazing hope in his eyes. He looked at me sincerely and firmly. I will definitely find the Xinghe ring back, and you will forgive me. He turned firmly and ran towards the direction where the ring fell. He bent his slender waist and dug through the snow bit by bit. A snowflake fell into his heart, causing a ripple, but it soon returned to calm. Su Wan waved to me from afar. He accompanied me to see my mother. After hesitating for a long time, he looked at me and asked in a low voice whether I would forgive him if he really found the ring. I put the doll left by my mother next to the tombstone. In the doll was the sound of Wen Ning accompanying him when my mother died, and the two of them counting down to the new year together. Xiao Ning promised his aunt that he would always be with Xinghe. Wen Ning agreed without hesitation. Maybe at that moment my mother was happy. Thinking back, I curled the corners of my lips and said lightly, "He can't find the ring." Suwon didn't understand why. I rubbed the ring hidden in my palm and didn't answer. From that day on, I never saw Wen Ning again. The snowman in the yard had melted long ago. The next time I saw him was the day I was about to leave the city. Song Shui found me and handed me a ring. He said that Wen Ning had been diagnosed with gastric cancer a long time ago. He had been staying in the snow all day looking for the ring during this period. He had been in the hospital for many days and begged me to go see him. The ring was very similar to our wedding ring, but Wen Ning and I knew very well that he was just a substitute after all. I rejected Song Shui's request and just asked him to bring back a note. Wen Ning happily unfolded the note, but his eyes dimmed a little bit. "Wen Ning, we owe each other nothing in this life, and we will never see each other in the next life. May you be happy and worry-free for the rest of your life." He dropped his arms weakly and murmured to himself, "Nothing in this life, and we will never see each other in the next life."